So our next speaker is Jeremy Edberg, who's a data wrangler at Netflix. But actually today he's going to be coming on stage as an angel investor. Jeremy hears a ton of pitches being an angel in the Valley, and every one of those founders often come in insanely upbeat. And so what he's going to do today is share some tips on how to come off really upbeat, enthusiastic, but also really genuine. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Jeremy.
So how many of you are founders? Awesome. And how many of you are going to change the world? All of you probably have your hands up.
Who's next?
And how many of you are saying this every time you're talking to an investor? Come on, I know you are.
Marty,
Thank you.
You're next, right?
Somebody should tell them that they have the mic on in the back. All right, so I don't want to be a Debbie Downer today, but my goal here is to basically give you a reality check. So I hear lots of pitches, I go to demo days, stuff like that, and everybody's always super excited about what they're talking about. And after I hear the pitch, I'm always like, oh my God, that is amazing. And then I think about it for 30 seconds, and I'm like, no, actually, they're full of shit. So I want to tell you about what I see and what you can do to help pass the sniff test, right? The sniff test, does it smell like shit or not? So first, you have to tell a good story. Right? I mean, that's really what you're doing during a pitch. You only have a couple of minutes usually, and I want to hear a good story, because, otherwise I'm going to get bored. So learn to be a good storyteller. But then, let's talk about the standard pitch deck. Luckily, Dave McClure covered some of this in his injury time during his talk, so I can go faster. But let's start with the financial projections, right? How many of you have a graph that looks like a hockey stick in your pitch deck? Right? A couple of you probably, because every single pitch deck has that. And, we see right through it. We know that it's not true. Go Kings. We know that it's not true. So, you can put it in there, but everyone's just kind of gloss over it anyway. Same with this graph, right? This graph of, oh my God, we have so many users. We've doubled every single week. We went from 20 to 40 and then to 80. And it's like, yeah, okay, you did. You have a website, you're trying to hit like millions of people, and you went from 20 to 40 to 80. And that's great. But try not to sound so excited about that, right? Say like, hey, yeah, so far things are going well in the first couple of weeks. But if you get up there and you're like, yeah, doubling every week, it just sounds like you're trying to inflate your numbers, And then the next one is the market size, right? So we hear this whole thing about, oh yeah, the market is $500 billion, and all we have to do is capture 1%. And it's like, yeah, the hotel market is $500 billion. But you know what? They have buildings and beds and desks and lots of other stuff. And you have a website. And yes, your website is probably going to do really well because you have a lot more leverage than they do because you're digital. But at the same time, don't blow smoke up our ass and make us think, yeah, we're going to get 1% of this market that has so much more infrastructure than a website. However, if you have a cool new tech, tell me about it. I hear a bunch of pitches where they're like, yeah, we're going to save the world, we're going to fix batteries. How? They don't ever tell me. They just say, we're going to fix batteries, but they don't ever tell me how or what. Pique my interest. Make me want to come talk to you. Right? I heard another pitch that was really good. It was about a device. It measures your pulse. And they said, this is how it works. It uses this technology, which I didn't understand. And that was great, because after the pitch, I went up to them, and I'm like, it sounds like you know what you're talking about. Tell me more. I want to hear about this technology that you have. And if you have something that's patentable or whatever, I mean, that's even better, right? That's what investors love to hear. Oh, you can get a patent on that? Patents are great. We hate patents, but they make us lots of money. And then the next one, one of the big things that I hear in lots of pitches is people give me the solution before the problem. I want to hear the problem that you're solving. This happens in corporate America too, and corporate Canada, I guess. It happens in corporations all the time, right? Somebody says, we're going to build this great thing, and you say, what's it solving? Who's the user? What's the use case? I don't know. It just sounded like a cool thing to build. Have a story behind users' use cases. Who is going to actually use this product? And that's what I want to hear first, because I'm more interested in who's going to use your product and why they're going to use it than what you've built. But I do also want to hear about what you've built. But I want you to show it to me, right? I see a lot of pitches that are like, we built this great thing. Okay, can you at least show me a screenshot of what you built? I don't want to hear about this wonderful thing you built and then not see any of it at all. I may come and ask you about it, but probably not. If you at least pique my interest with a screenshot of what you've built, then I'm much more likely to come and talk to you about it and want to ask you about what you built. And I want to know that you've thought about your competitors, right? A lot of pitches, they never include anything about competition. They never talk about that they've even considered how this business might fail, right? This is what I want to know about it. I want to know, how will this business fail? You don't have to sound bad about it. In fact, how are you going to protect yourself from that failure? If you have a solution in mind already, that's the very best thing you can tell me, because then you can tell me we've thought about how we're going to fail and how we're going to fix that problem. I'd love to see those two things together. Pitches that have those two things definitely make me more excited because it tells me that they've thought about these things. And then, I also want to hear about an exit strategy if you have one. If you don't have one, that's cool, that's fine, but if you do have one, you should tell me about it, because that's going to be exciting, and not just how you're going to exit, but how I am, because usually those go together, but not always. And then you're going to have an ask, right? A lot of pitches end with, we're looking to raise X million dollars from this many people, etc. But know your audience when you're doing that ask. Know who you're talking to. If you're talking to a bunch of angels, don't ask for $10 million, right? And if you're talking to a bunch of VCs, you don't want to ask for like $10,000, because they're probably not going to want to do such a small investment. So keep in mind who your audience is when you're doing this. And your business model, right? You don't have to have one. A lot of people don't. And even if they do, it's probably going to change. But if you do have one, then it's good to tell me what it is, because I'd like to know, And then another one here is, you hear a lot of pitches with, this solved my uncle's problem, and it was great. And it's like, okay, but how many of your uncles are out there, right? How many people are there that are actually going to have the same problem that this one person that had? And then the one that I see the most is people always put the picture of their team first. That's the Canadian curling team, by the way. They always put the picture of their team at the beginning. And it's like, that's nice, but I don't really need to know who you are at the beginning. I'm more interested in what you're solving and why, unless your team is super relevant. I saw a pitch from some folks who are making an app that was going to help do medical diagnosis. And their team was 2 doctors who got engineering degrees and an advisor who literally wrote their textbook on diagnosis. That was interesting to see at the front, because now you know that they've done their work. But typically, the team is not what's the most interesting thing, and so there's no reason to lead off with it. However, your elevator pitch, that's where you can just talk about how wonderful and everything is going to be. Because the elevator pitch, you've only got a minute, and I want to hear what's awesome. So hopefully this was useful to you. Thank you very much.